for you guys, okay? So let's go to the panel. Anyone, if something breaks in the middle, let me know, or if you're not able to see my screen, let me know. Under the repositories, I'm going ahead with Terraform. I have 2 repos. We have to go a little fast because we have 2 days to cover for Terraform. Means it depends. Okay, so now let me go to the Terraform document. I have to download it. Okay. Fine. So this is a document that will give you an overview of what Terraform is, how do we actually work on Terraform. Okay. So as I told you, that Terraform will be the automation tool, which will actually automate your infrastructure, right? So now we will actually see how it works. So for this, we need a Linux machine. So we will be seeing how it actually works in your, like how do we install Terraform in Linux machine. We will also see how do we install Terraform in Windows machine. Okay. And
Okay.
sorry, I cannot show it on Mac OS because I don't have it. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to create a Linux machine very quickly. Okay. So I want you guys also to do all these things parallelly. If you're not following or if I'm really fast, tell me so that I can pause for some time. I want everyone to be at this stage only. Okay.
Mhm.
I hope everyone is having your AWS account by now. We are going and creating a Ubuntu machine. Okay. Okay, I have one machine which is already stopped. Then I can make use of it. Anyways, it's a Ubuntu 18.0 only. So I'll be just starting. I don't know which key pair I have used here. Fine. That's fine. I'm taking my public IP.
Okay.
Okay, I did not tell this step, right? Okay. So yes, in order to connect to your Ubuntu machines, Windows machines, if we have to do something, anyways, it's your laptop. But if we have to do with other OS platform, then you will have to create your server and then means your machine, and then you will have to connect it using a software. It is called as your putty. Okay. So whenever you're launching, you see that you get a pop-up wherein it will ask you to choose a key pair or create a new key pair, right? So once you
Yes.
give that, you will be downloading a .pem file. Okay. So that will be your RSA token file that is usually used for your authentication mechanism, right? So once we have the PEM file, we will have to convert that PEM file using our PuttyGen. Okay. So yeah, yesterday I also asked you guys to go ahead and download your Putty and PuttyGen as well, right? So once you have your PEM file, go to your PuttyGen software and then don't click on generate because if you don't have a PEM file, if you want to generate a PPK file, you will have to use generate. So now you already have the PEM file, you need to load that and convert that PEM file into a private key file. Okay, that is PPK file. So now I'm going to load and click on keep it as all files because usually it will be .pem file, right? And then going to type okay, this is the PEM file that I've given. I'm just clicking open and then let it be okay, and then click on save private key. Okay, because most of them do a mistake clicking on public key, which is actually not valid. So click on private key, save private key, yes, and then I'll be giving something like this, and extension should be .ppk file. Then go ahead and save it. Okay, then your putty key generator, putty gen is over, so you can close this. Now go ahead with your connection, go to the public IP, click on your actual putty, give the IP address, go to your SSH authorization and your let it be at authorization only. Go ahead and browse your file, the PPK that you have converted for today. Okay, so I'm just going and clicking and selecting the private key file, click on open and then allow it to yes. Login should be your Ubuntu because we have created an Ubuntu machine, and by default you will have your Ubuntu login there as the administrator. Okay, so that's the reason we are going ahead and using Ubuntu, right? So now I have connected to my Linux machine, correct? So the very first step you will have to perform if you're using your Linux machine is that sudo is for your super user, and then apt-get is to get all your packages and
Okay.
update. So you will have to update all your packages before you're doing anything. Okay. So for that particular location, for that particular Linux machine, if any packages are there updated, it will be showing it to you. Okay. So let me just maximize this like this. Now let's go ahead and see our Terraform document, right? So here, in order to go ahead and perform some automation with our infrastructure, we will have to create a file with file name .tf. Okay, so .tf will be your extension for your Terraform file. Okay, so now before that, I will be taking you all to the official website of your Terraform. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the Terraform official website, and Terraform is a product by HashiCorp. Okay. So now if you go back and I want to see something called as your Terra. Okay. I wanted this page. So here, this is the official website, and you can see all types of providers or all types of functionalities that you can perform in your Terraform, right? So if you see right now, I am in the AWS provider. So that's the reason I can see what all I can do with my AWS, right? So if I go to the providers, it is not that you can use Terraform only for your AWS cloud or for your Azure cloud. It will support 70 plus providers. Okay, the support for 70 plus providers, but see, these are the providers that is supported by your Terraform. Okay, so which is actually highlighted all these things, not only 75, I think it's more than that as well. But when you go ahead and see the providers list, you have major cloud infrastructure network, VCS, and all these things, right? So if you go ahead and see the major cloud, you have AWS and Azure and GCP listed in your major cloud providers. Okay, so that is where you have your major contributions or major work done during your Terraform. Got it,
Okay.
right? And if you want
Yeah.
to perform anything with respect to your AWS, you can go ahead and click here and then see what all it actually helps you to do. Okay.
Okay.
So first and foremost, what we would be doing is that we would be See, for your any kind of provider, right, whether it will be AWS or Azure, the first thing that you want to understand when you're going to write a Terraform file, right, that means a Terraform script. And Terraform is written usually in JSON. JSON is very easy to understand. Okay, so it will be like your name and value pair, wherein you can understand what is actually going on inside your file. Say, for example, this is a example. Whatever provider that you are using, you will have to give that provider name here and make sure that this name is what is defined by your Terraform. Okay, you cannot change that name. Okay, if you give provider AWS cloud, something like that, it will not take you and it will throw you an error. Okay, so whatever they have exposed the names, you will have to use that names as well. So in this example, if you see, before you go ahead and do any kind of operation with respect to your cloud, you should tell Terraform what provider you're using, right? So for that, the very first step in your .tf file should be your provider code, right? Provider, give the provider name. Usually here we are giving AWS, and then version is actually not required, but you can make use of this version as well, and the region. This is the extra properties that you can make use. Here, what you will have to observe is that you can see that the JSON format is really easy to understand, right? So you have version here, and inside the double quote, you have the values.
Okay.
Got it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So first thing that I just discussed is that you will have to first thing is provider, and once your provider is decided, you will have to see a way to authenticate that provider via your Terraform, right? Because I need to make the authentication or a connection between my Terraform and the AWS provider or Azure provider. Only then I'll be allowed to make connection and perform different operations with respect to the services of AWS, Azure, etc. Right? So for that, the first you have several types of authentication: static, environmental variable, shared credentials file, and EC2 role. Okay, so these are the authentication mechanism that you can make use based on your AWS. Okay, this will not be same for your Azure. This will not be same for your GCP or any other like DigitalOcean. It won't be same for all the other providers. Okay, your
Okay.
homework number one will be to go ahead and see the different authentication mechanisms for at least 5 providers. Okay, so that you will understand how are they connecting. Here in AWS, we are going to use the first method that is called as your static credentials. In static credentials, what are we going to do is that we are going to use something like this. Okay, so we are going to make use of the access key and secret key. Okay, in other providers, it may be username and password, or it may be tokens as well. Okay, so this is a form of authentication to your Terraform. Right, now I am going to create my first TF file. So
Okay.
I am going, you can make use of the editor, because why the editor is useful, so that you can see what is actually happening, right? Say for example, if I'm copying this code, I can even put that in my notepad, right? Please stop me if I'm really going fast, or if you guys are really not understanding, stop me. Okay, so this is how it looks in a notepad, right? But if you have a bigger chunk of code to actually read it, it will be difficult in notepad, right? So that's the reason you can make use of any of the editor. Usually, because I am
Notepad++
from Visual
is good.
Studio, yes, background, I will be using Visual Studio Code, but you can also go ahead and use other editors. Usually Atom is one of it, and Visual Studio Code. Okay, otherwise Notepad plus plus also you can use. Sorry.
Okay.
Now I'm going to just add a new file. Let me see. Okay, something like this, and let me see this file as .tf. Okay. Okay, anyways, it's in JS format. You can also save it as .tf. anyways, we will be creating in the Linux machine. No, I just want to see the content in this view so that it will be more representable, right? So now what all I have? The first and foremost thing that we need to have in our TF is your provider region. Region, how do you know which region you are in? Go to your AWS console and
Here in Ohio region.
Ohio region
Hi.
here. And if you want to know the like the representation for your Ohio region, you can go ahead and see here. So it is US East 2, right? US hyphen East hyphen 2. So now
Jason, there is any other way to see the region as well?
region, usually you can get it from your link. Other than that, you can go here also and see what is the stands for.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So let me go ahead and change my region to US East. Sorry. Right. And then the next thing what I require is access key and secret key, correct? So for that, I will have to go back to my AWS and I'll
Console.
have to
Yeah.
create a user, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll give the administrative access for him, full admin access. So for that, I'll have to go to my services, click on IAM,
Mhm.
Identity Access
Users.
Management, and then I'm
Users.
going to click on user. Okay, and then I'm going to create a user, but let me just check if I have it.
Security credentials.
I do have it.
I think at a time there are only two.
Generate credentials.
Yes.
You can create only two actually.
Yes, that's the reason I just want to delete it. This is my access key ID.
Mhm.
You can even download the file and save it, but anyways, I'm keeping it in my TF doc. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the first step that you will have to understand when you are going to make an authentication, right? So now this is done. Let's go ahead and see what happens if we are going to execute this script in our Linux machine, right? So now
Okay.
what I want to do is that I want to we have not installed Terraform, right? So first let's go ahead and install Terraform and then create a tier, right?
Okay.
So let me go back to my Underlyke repository, go back to Terraform. Okay, so these are the steps that are required for you to follow in order to install your Terraform, right? So
Okay.
first we are going to install unzip thing because we actually need it to use for our software to unzip. Okay, that's the reason we are installing the unzip module. Yeah. Is it inactive?
Click right click. Click it right.
No, it is active.
It is
I think
active.
it's working.
No,
Yeah. Now it's
it is in
gone
activity state.
inactive. Duplicate session.
Start session. Okay, now let's go ahead and install the unzip module first.
Yeah.
Then we are going to get the packages from your
Wget.
okay, but okay. This has the version which is actually a little bit old, but now the version is actually 0. Okay, native 20. Okay. So
Okay.
now, fine. So this is done. That means your zip file is already there. We will have to move this, like unzip this and then move this to the bin. What is this bin? Because I'll just tell you. Okay. So now I'm going to use my unzip module, which is already there, and I'm going to unzip.
Just see,
Why it is
the
showing me error?
name conversation change.
Yes.
1223. You need to keep.
It's actually from where we get this GitHub and all. Like I don't know from where to get this. That the file you are getting from GitHub from where I get it.
You can go to the same link. That's a public link.
I think they don't have actually. You share the link actually today. I think this
For the Andalike link,
yeah, exactly.
okay. It was shared yesterday, but no, not a problem. I'll be sharing it right away.
Actually, this is my second class. I'm going to attend this yesterday class as well.
Arpit, right? Yeah, Arpit, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, we had finished the introduction only, like what we had covered in the last class, creating the Ubuntu machine only, right? So we are at that level. We did not do something more than that. Okay, so this is the Andalike link. Maybe I would have not given you in that class. So this is the link to find out your repositories. Okay, not only with respect to your Terraform, you can also see all the other topics as well, right?
Okay.
Okay.
So
Thanks.
now, okay, not a problem. So now let's go back. Why is it telling inflating Terraform? Okay, it is already installed.
It's already done, right? Yeah.
Yes. Now we have to move the Terraform to your local and bin. Why? Because we are going to use this everywhere, right? So I'll be showing that when we are actually working on Windows machines. How to install Terraform using Windows machine. There I'll be showing that. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The latest is 12.24. Okay. So now the version what we have is 12.23, right? So,
Yeah.
so these are the steps that you would have to follow when you're doing that with your Linux machine. Okay. But in your Windows machine, you can actually go to your Terraform documentation and click on the downloader. Fine. That we will be anyway seeing in the next class. Right. So now your Terraform is done. Let's go ahead and create a
Money, please mute your mic.
okay, then we are going to create a directory and then we are going inside that directory and then we are going to create a TF files, right? So
Yeah.
in order to create a files in Linux, you can use Vim or you can also use sudo as well. Nano as well, right? Sudo nano and your Terraform Terraform 1 is your file name. .tf will be your extension, correct? Nano is used to create your file. Hit on enter. Okay, so this is the mode that you will have your contents to place in. Now go back to your editor, copy these things
Paste it.
and paste it here, right? To save it, Control X, press yes, that means Y, and enter. So now this file is saved and I want to execute, means I want to go ahead and do my Terraform operations, right? So now the first step after creating your script is to initiate your Terraform. Okay. So now I'm going to give Terraform space init.
Okay, start.
Okay. So what is it actually doing is that based on the provider that you are going to give inside your file, right? That means we have given the provider as AWS. So
Okay.
the very first thing that it is going to do is that, see, when you give Terraform init, it is telling initializing, and it is also telling you initializing the provider plugins, right? So it is telling you that it is going and downloading the plugin that is required for Terraform to work with AWS. Okay.
AWS.
So what does Terraform init will do? It will actually download the plugins that is given in your provider. Okay. So here it is AWS. That is why it is giving you the HashiCorp/AWS. If it is Azure, it will give HashiCorp/Azure, and so on.
Okay.
Got it, right? So that is the main intention of Terraform init. Got it, right? So now we
Yeah.
will be seeing the next steps. So this is only to initiate your Terraform file, right? So now let's go back and go to our Terraform thing. Okay. So now what we have to do is that, so now we had made a connection. We want to go ahead and give the resources. That means we want to go ahead and create something in AWS, right? Because AWS provides different services like EC2, IAM, Lambda,
Yeah.
EKS, everything, right? So if I have to go ahead and create a new instance, where I have to go? I have to go to the EC2 module, and then I have to create a resource in EC2 modules, correct? So for that, where do you go ahead and find your module and find your resources? So here you have something called as your, to your left hand side, whatever you see. So these are the services that you can perform along with your Terraform to AWS, right? So what
Mm-hmm.
is usually
Okay.
EC2 is here, okay? So we are doing an operation with respect to EC2. That's where we will have to go to EC2, and inside EC2, what do you have? You have two options. One is your data sources and one is your resources, right? So data sources, as of now, let's not go ahead and dig in for data sources. We are going to look how to create a resource in EC2, right? So we are concerned with the resources, right? So under resources, you can see that you have an option to perform many resources, right? Say for example, AWS AMI. That means if you want to add a AMI, or if you want to copy an AMI, if you want to get the AMI instance. So all these are the naming convention that your Terraform will give you to perform these operations under your resource, correct? So right now, as a first step, let's go ahead and see how to create an instance, right? So I'm just coming
Okay.
down. There is something called as your AWS underscore instance, right? So I'm going ahead and clicking on that. So to create an AWS instance, the resource name should be AWS instance. Got it? So let me
Mm-hmm.
just come down. Under this resource, see, how do you represent, or how do you know what piece of code you need to write? This is how you can go ahead and write. Okay. So this is the keyword should be resource, and what type of resource that you're doing. Here it is AWS instance. And
That's
then what is this? This is the name of your instance. Okay. And then,
okay, like web application.
yeah, you can name it anything, web application or database server. Whatever
Okay.
name that you're going to give to your virtual machine, that will be your this one. Okay. And then
Yeah, understood.
what is the AMI ID instance type tags.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you when you're trying to create a code, you should also know what are your mandatory or optional fields. Okay, because mandatory is that something you will have to provide for that piece of code, correct? So here,
Okay.
if you just come down, you have the argument reference, correct? So here under the argument reference, you can see something called as your required option, right? So your AMI is required and other things are optional. I would leave it to you guys to go ahead and
Okay.
explore.
Required in the sense like mandatory.
Mandatory, yes. And then I think your instance type is also required. And then you can see that, wait, okay. Yeah, that's it. You have your instance type and your AMI ID as your mandatory thing, right? So that is what we actually see here.
Okay.
The optional options by default it will take.
No. You will have to mention each and everything. Optional things is that even if you run the script without this optional being there, like if you don't give availability zone, the value for availability zone or the value for tenancy host ID, it will create a resource for you because that assumes after creation also, if you want to do the modification, you can do that using your optional like values, correct? But mandatory, the required one, you cannot skip. Got it? So now,
Okay, that's in the sense, if we keep only mandatory things and we go ahead and create it, it will take whatever the defaults will be there, it will take it automatically or what?
yes, whatever is default, it will take. Say, for
Yeah.
example, network, right? We don't usually specify the network while we're creating because we will give only the AMI ID and your
Mhm.
instance type. But by default, whatever you have in your account as your default VPC, it will take the default VPC, it will take your default subnet, it will take your default security groups.
Okay.
Got it, right? So now
Yeah,
let's
got it.
go ahead and check this piece of code. Okay, so this is my code for resource. I'm just going and go ahead and copying it. Let me go to my editor. Paste it here, AWS instance. Let it be demo1 and AMI. See, you can in the earlier versions, right? If you have to mention any kind of value representations or how do you represent your attributes value, this was the notation. Anyways, we will be discussing that, but this was in your older versions of your Terraform, like 0.11.10. Okay, so this is how you will have to mention your values. This we will be seeing later. As of now, what I'm doing is I'm going to copy the AMI ID of my running instance. Okay, and AMI ID will be definitely different based on your locations as well. So keep that in mind, right? So I'm going to my AWS console. I'm going to my services. So how do you know what kind of AMI ID you need to use, right? Go to your EC2. If you have a running instance and you want to create same instance as that, you can go ahead to your running instance. Just come down, you have something called as your AMI ID, right? Or
Yeah.
if you want to go ahead and see what is there in other configurations, go to launch instance, type in here what is actually required, right? So I want Ubuntu 18. Sorry, I'll just give only Ubuntu. Okay, the first one. So here the AMI ID will be this one.
Okay.
Got it, right? So copy this
Yeah.
AMI ID. We are going to my text editor, paste the AMI ID here. Okay, and make sure the instance type should be T2 micro, right? Because once you select this, what is your free tier eligible? That is your T2.micro, right? So it is T2.micro because we are going to create free servers for demo classes, and then tags you can just name it as hello, right? So now our file is ready with one of the resource in it along with your provider details, right? So let me go
Yes.
ahead, copy it. Let me go back to my Ubuntu machine. Why it has become inactive so fast?
I use some other thing like, or else some other
Which
putty. Yeah, there are
same?
so many mobile streams there.
Yeah, that I usually don't use the tools,
Okay, okay, not an issue.
but I'm lazy to download and use it. How the training is when to know what is that file we gave Terraform one, right? 1.tf. Enter. How do you check whether your Terraform is there or not? Just type the application name or any software name Terraform. If it is there, it will give you something like this, right? So now
Yeah.
I think we will have to go inside the Terraform demo. Okay, so now we can see the file. So this is the code that we have, and unfortunately you cannot copy it. Like Control A, Control V will not work. So I will be copying only this piece of code. Got it?
Yeah.
Then paste it. Right? So now let's go ahead and save it. Oh, sorry, Control X. Okay, it is already saved, right? Now I'm going to again init. I think Terraform init is already done. The next command will be your Terraform plan. Okay, so what does your Terraform plan will do? It will tell you the execution plan, and it will tell you the things that is going to happen next. Okay, so that it is like a planning before you actually do anything to your infrastructure, because infrastructure will be critical. That's the reason you need to have a plan. You need to see it before you are actually going ahead and performing it, right? So I'm using the second command, which is called as your plan. So now what does plan will do? It will actually go ahead and tell you what you have in your TF files, right? So here,
Mhm.
if you see, it is telling me that Terraform will perform the following actions, right? So what
Okay,
is
we
the
have it,
action?
right?
Yes, it is telling you I'm going to add a AWS instance with the name demo1, and then
Mm-hmm.
that demo1 will have what kind of properties? Plus means it is going to add, it has the AMI, and
Mhm.
it has your instance type. So these two are the mandatory thing, right? Sorry.
Okay.
So it will add these two, and it will also add your tags that was there in your file, correct? So this is like a double check before you go ahead and execute your plan. So all these things, if you see what it is telling you, it is telling you known after apply. That means it will be computed after your instance has been created. Okay, because the volume or your network will be actually been seen after you create your instance, right? So that's the reason. So come down. Now you're ready that you know that plan is giving you. So this is your main thing that you will have to observe in your planning. Okay, so that you will be more sure what you're going to perform, right? So now plan looks good. Let's go ahead and apply it, right? So the next command we will be seeing is your Terraform apply. Okay, so let's go ahead and give Terraform apply.
Apply. Apply in the
Okay,
sense it
apply
will make
is
the
to,
changes,
yes,
right?
make the changes. That means execute your piece of code. Okay,
Code.
then I click on
It
enter.
will launch the instance.
Ah,
Yes,
it
it
will
will
launch the instance.
launch the instance. Okay, and before that it will ask you the prompt. At this stage also, see, Terraform apply will also do the plan and then apply. Okay, so you can even go ahead and use only Terraform apply. That's the newest like change between your
Yes.
older versions of your Terraform and your newer version. Before we had to do this plan apply, init plan apply, but now you can go ahead and do init and apply, because apply will also give you the plan first, and then it will ask you whether you can go ahead and execute it. If you type no, nothing will be performed, right? So now I'm going to click on yes. This is the approval action, and then
Mhm.
it will actually create an instance for us. So it is telling you creating, correct? So it might
Yeah.
take some time, and for every 10 seconds, it will give you the update, like what is happening, right? It is still creating or it has been created, like that. Okay, so now it is telling you apply complete. Resources is one that has been added,
I
right?
have a
And
small doubt, Jayashree.
yes,
Okay. Have you ever got any errors while creating a Terraform template?
yes,
Like,
many times. In case if something is wrong in your file, right? It will
mm-hmm.
not create it for you. Like if it is a, generally if it is a syntax error, or if you're trying to create a virtual machine in the other VPC or other subnet ID, or if you have defined your variables wrong, because we will
Mm.
be seeing the variables file as well. So if you're giving the value for your variables wrong, then it will also throw you an error.
Okay.
Whether the errors are will be displayed.
Yes, it will be displayed. No need to worry. It will be displayed. If you are doing a syntax error, it will tell you which line the syntax error is. If it
Mhm.
is like the variables error, it will also tell you it cannot process this because of this issue.
Okay. Syntax also will be shown here itself, or else the Visual
No,
Studio
here,
Code.
no. Here only. Syntax
Here.
is actually it will not be given in your Visual Studio Code, because that is just to differentiate between the lines or the spaces, to make it look more not like confusing in your notepad, right? But it will not
Yeah.
give you syntax error there.
Uh,
But here,
I
if you're
think
doing,
syntax in the sense in the Visual Studio Code, the basic Blender mistakes, like
that
if
that
uh,
will give you, I think. But until and unless you execute the script,
mm,
no tool will give you the error. That's what I
yes,
feel.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I can
So
Okay.
now
understand.
it's added. Let's go ahead and see what it has done, right? So let me cancel. So,
And one thing, if we apply Terraform apply,
mhm.
right, we have now we have only one file that we can execute from that file, right?
Yes,
But if we have many files, means
Multiple.
from
we will
which that it will
be
execute.
seeing that in the next class.
Okay.
And
Okay.
thanks, it's a good question. So we will be seeing that in the next class as well. Okay. So now
Okay.
you see that this is a basic first step, that how it actually happens. Then
Okay.
tomorrow we will be seeing multiple other things which is there with respect to your Terraform. Like many things are there with respect to your variables, attributes, output values, and your provisioners and all those things. Okay, so we will be seeing in detail.
Okay.
So now you
Okay.
see that your instance is created, and with the name, that is the tag name that you have given, right? And your AMI ID as well as you have given, and what was the instance type. Got it, right?
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that's it for today. For tomorrow, let's go ahead and do other things as well. So meanwhile, I want you guys to uh, do a homework. What was the first thing that I told you guys?
That one is
Something I
different
told you.
mechanism for 5 providers.
Huh. Okay. Yeah. Different authentication methods for your providers, and I want you
Different
to
problem.
go ahead and have a look on the providers as well. So in case in the interviews, if they ask you, does Terraform support only 2 3 providers, or how many providers it can support, it will be more than 75 or 100. Okay. And
Okay.
then authentication methods. Right now, we have discussed the static one, because we are going to use the access and secret key ID, because that is a static value, right? It does not change until and unless you go ahead and click on generate, right?
Okay. And I have small doubt.
Yes.
See, now we are creating it from once we get the code,
Mhm,
everything from the HashiCorp that,
mhm.
website.
Yes.
We are taking the each and every detail from the console itself. And what is the purpose of Terraform? Obviously, if you go to console, you can do it over there itself directly.
Which console you're talking about?
AWS console.
Yes, but
Like
what?
if you want an AMI code, you
Mm-hmm.
go to a console.
Yes.
If you
See,
want to VPC ID, you go to console. Like this, we perform every time. What is the purpose of going for Terraform instead of doing it in the console itself?
in console, if you have to create the same thing, what you will have to do, you have to go to your screen, launch instance, select AMI ID, and follow some steps, right? But if
Yes.
you want to create the same set of servers, same set of configuration, say
Uh-huh.
50 servers or 100 servers with the same configuration. So in that case,
Okay.
will you go ahead and do manually clicking 100 times for your launch instance? No, right?
Yes.
So that's
I
the
understand.
advantage. And not only, the mandatory things that you will have to give, you have to copy it from the AWS console, because the mandatory
Mhm.
fields are your AMI ID and your instance type, right? So without
Yes.
AMI ID, Terraform doesn't know what kind of server you're expecting Terraform to
Mm-hmm.
create. So that's the mandatory thing that you will have to give. So we will have to follow few things that are required, Optional thing, even though it is not specified, Terraform will handle it for you.
Okay.
Got it right?
Yeah, got it.
Jayashree, I have a
Yes.
small doubt.
Yes.
Actually, we can select the number of instances at that time. We can give that 100 instance at a time, right?
Yes.
So
But
at a
if
single
it
time, we
is
can launch the 100 instance.
You can launch.
Yeah.
You have a okay. How do we do that? It's a homework for you guys. I know that, but I am expecting the answer
Yeah.
from you guys. So if you want to create, say, 100 machines with the same configurations in a single file of
Yeah.
Terraform, how do I do that? Right? So
Sorry, I
that one
didn't catch you.
and your, sorry?
I didn't catch you.
No, that is the homework for you guys. I want you to tell me how do we create same set of machines using my Terraform, right? There is one property. So I want you guys to go ahead and tell me that property name in Terraform by tomorrow. Got it? So for today, these two are your homeworks, and I want you to go ahead and explore Terraform in the official website itself. So this is your official website. I'll be sharing the link. So this is your official website. Anything that you want to do with your Terraform, don't refer any other third-party vendors or third-party people copying Terraform. I want you to go ahead and do that in this Terraform given link itself.
okay.
Got it right? So yes, this is all for today's class. Tomorrow we will be seeing a little bit more in detail.
Sure.
Okay. So
Just I
any
have a
doubts here?
small doubt.
Yes.
Yeah, I have this. Now how we are going to log into that instance which is created through Terraform. That means my question is how we get the PPK key, which key we need to mention.
Yes. Very good question. So here, how do we do that? As of now,
Yeah.
I did not give the key pair name, right?
PFC. Keep your name.
So
Yeah.
I will not be able to actually connect with the machine. In our file, there is something called as your key pair
Keep your name.
value, key pair name also. Okay, so you will have to give that key pair if you really want to connect. So this is your key pair name.
Key
Okay,
name.
why it is
Yeah.
optional? Why it is not mandatory? Because you can also create servers which should not be accessed to anyone, right?
Ah.
That's the
Okay.
reason you keep it as optional. Got it right? So you can go ahead and add this property and add your key pair name that is already created. Okay, so you cannot create a new key pair name. You have to add a key pair here. So you have something called as your key pairs here. Go ahead and add your key pair name first or use the existing one. Say for example, I have TST. This TST should be the name for your key pair value, key pair property. Got it?
Okay. And can we change once the machine has see now you have already created the instance.
Mm-hmm.
Can we make any changes afterwards?
You
The
can make
particular.
changes. Yes, you can make changes. That's the biggest advantage of you going with Terraform.
Okay.
Okay, so you
Okay.
can make
Okay.
the changes. I'll be showing that how it is usually done using your TF state file. Okay, so that we will be seeing in detail because that is a little important topic. So I don't want to rush it. So we will
Okay.
see that detail by tomorrow. Okay, and
Sure.
I also have the next batch. You saw them calling me, no? So
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
thanks.
Jayashree,
We'll
I have one more doubt.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
What?
Instead of that, giving that key pair name and all the things, can
Uh-huh.
we connect with the user? Actually, you have provided that access key and all the things, right?
No, no. See, access key is only to
For
make
AWS
sure,
only.
make sure that your connection is there from your AWS to Terraform. It does not
AWS account.
tell you how to connect to your machines, right? This is to connect to your AWS service,
Okay.
not for your EC2 instance.
Okay.
Okay, that should be done via your key pair only.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Done, Jayashree. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, thank you. Get me all the doubts by tomorrow. We'll discuss that first and then we'll move ahead.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.